Boys, let's get started. On this Erev Pesach, when we all have a lot to do, we're on Daf Ayin Ches Amud Aleph at the Mishnah. Hamocher es hachamor lo mochar kelov. That when you sell a donkey, you don't include in that sale all of its accoutrements, all of its apparatus. Nachum Hamodi Omer mochar kelov. And Nachum says, Nachum the Mede says that you do sell the apparatus. Rabbi Yehuda Omer pa'amim mechurim, pa'amim eno mechurim. And Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. Sometimes it's included and sometimes it's not. Ketzad. So let's illustrate. Haya chamor lefanav v'kelov alav. If the chamor, if the donkey was in front of the buyer and seller, and it was already saddled with its apparatus, v'omer lo mechor li chamor chazeh, and the buyer says, sell me this donkey, so then he clearly is indicating that he wants to buy that donkey with its apparatus. Harei kelev mechurin. But chamor chahu ein kelev mechurin. But if he says, is this the donkey, so then he doesn't mean, he's only saying the word who for identification purposes, meaning he wants to know, is this your donkey? And then, would you sell it to me? So the word zeh, there's nothing extraneous for us to extract that he means to purchase the donkey with its apparatus, and therefore it's only the donkey and not the apparatus. Amar Ula, machlokes besak v'diskaya v'kumni, the Tanakama Savar stam chamor lirkov koi, v'nachum amodi Savar stam chamor lemasoy kani. So the machlokus over here is like this. Ula says that there's only a machlokus between the Chachamim and Nachum as far as whether the apparatus is included is with the sak and the diskaya. Now these are containers, and we'll learn what a kumni is shortly. But for now, a kumni is a side saddle that is used for women. These are things that are not integral to the riding of the donkey. They are used for cargo, and therefore cargo apparatus is not automatically assumed to be included in the sale. The Tanakama Sover Stam Chamor Lirkov, the Nachum Amodi Sover Stam Chamor Lamasui Koi. And the reason why you have this difference of opinion is because the Tanakama says the primary function of a donkey is to ride it. So since these things are cargo utensils, and similarly, a woman's side saddle is also not its primary function. So for that reason, it's not included in the sale. Nachum says that no, the main function of a donkey is to schlep. Sometimes we all feel like a donkey, right? So if its prime function is to schlep, is to carry things, so then any apparatus that helps it carry is included in the sale. And that's essentially the machlokas, a very logical machlokas. Is the primary function of a donkey for riding, or is it for schlepping? Okay. Avol ukaf umirdas kilkali v'chebek divrei hakol mechurin. However, any apparatus that is used for riding the donkey is automatically, even the chachamim would agree that it's included. An ukaf is a saddle, a mirdas is a cargo saddle, which means that it's a saddle plus it's got underneath it like stuff to store things. Kilkali and chebek are the bridles or the harnesses that are used to hold the saddle in place, either under its belly or in front of it. Okay, but all of those things are included in the sale because the only way that you can really ride a donkey is if you have those on it. So it's, and as we know from previous Gemaras, you can't transfer one saddle from you can't transfer a saddle from one animal to another. Remember we had that in the Gemara? I'm trying to remember where that was. That a saddle is it conforms to the contour of a unique animal's body, so that you can't say, "Well, I was expecting you to get your own saddle." No, the saddle has already been broken in for this animal. So, anyway, so meisvei. So let's raise a contradiction. Chamor v'kelavani mocher lecha. Hareza mocher es ha'ukav v'es ha'mirdas v'es ha'kilkali v'es ha'chevek avolo mocher sak v'diskaya v'kumni. So the Brisa says, it says, if the seller says, I am selling you the donkey and its apparatus, and he says that explicitly, So then included in the sale is the saddle and all of the saddle apparatus. But not included is the cargo apparatus. Uvizman she'omer lo hi v'chol ma she'aleha harei kulon mechurin. But if he says the donkey and everything that's on it, then he even includes the cargo apparatus. So the question is like this. So taima da'amar lechamor v'kelav hu dekani ukafu mirda'as. But it sounds like from this brisa that the only reason why the buyer acquires the saddle is only because he said chamor v'kelav, the chamor and its utensils. But if he didn't say the chamor and its apparatus, and he just said chamor, he wouldn't acquire the saddle. So isn't that a problem for you, Ula? So hello, amar lehachi lo. So the Gemara says lo. Hu hadin da'afal gav da'omer lechamor v'kelav nami ukafu mirda'as mechurin. Really, I'll tell you that the Bryce is not, you're inferring the wrong thing from the Bryce. The Bryce would hold that even if you just say chamor, without anything else, you automatically acquire the saddle and the riding apparatus. But what's the point of the Bryce? V'hakamashmalan, da'afal gav da'omer le chamor v'kelav, sak v'diskaya v'kumni lokani. That even if he says a chamor and its apparatus, not included is the cargo apparatus, because a donkey is primarily for riding. That's the chiddush, and it goes according to the chacham, right? So we're still defending Ula's position. So my kumni, what taka is kumni that you said is part of the cargo apparatus? We know what the sak and the diskaya, those are two types of containers or sacks. But what is a kumni? So Amar Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Merkavta Denoshi. It's a side saddle for women. And the reason why it's considered to be a cargo apparatus is because women are not normal riders of donkeys. When I take a woman on a donkey, I'm taking her as transport, as cargo. That's the attitude of the Gemara. That's really that's the position, right? So Ibayiluhu, Ba'odan olav machlokes, avol b'sheinan olav moideluhu nachem hamadi. So now the question is like this. Is the machlokas between the Chachamim and Nachum regarding the cargo apparatus only when the cargo apparatus is on the donkey at the time of sale, where Nachum says, well, since it's on the donkey when you're buying it, it's implied that you want to purchase it along with the donkey. But Nachum would agree that if the apparatus is separate and off the donkey, he would agree to the Chachamim that it's not included in the sale. Odilma b'she'inan olav machlokes, avol ba'odan olav modulei rabbanu lenachum, or maybe just the opposite. Maybe the only time there's a machlokes is when the cargo apparatus is not on the donkey, and that's where the Chachamim say that you're not automatically koine. But if the cargo apparatus would be on the donkey at the time of purchase, even the Chachamim would agree that it's included. So Tashma, well, let's try to figure it out by looking at the next part of the Mishnah. Uvizman sha'amar lo hu v'chol. I'm sorry. This is first the brisa. Uvizman sha'amar lo hu v'chol ma sha'alav harei kulan mechurin. The brisa had said that if the seller specifies it's the donkey and everything that's on it, then everything is included in the sale. So what does it mean v'chol ma sha'alav? Everything that's on it. That implies that at the time of sale, the donkey has all of its apparatus on it. And we just said that this price is going according to the Chachamim, who say that you do not acquire the cargo. If you just said the word chamor, you don't acquire the cargo apparatus. And the second part of this brisa is implying that that's true even when the cargo apparatus is on it, because the contrasting case is that if you say it and everything that's on it presently is included in the sale, then the cargo apparatus is included. So Iyamart Bishlama Ba'odan Alav Machlokes Amani Rabbanani. So now it makes sense if you tell me that this brisa goes according to the Chachamim, and they argue with Nachum even when the cargo apparatus is on the donkey, right? So Ela Iyamart B'She'ein Odan Alav Machlokes Aval Ba'odan Alav Divrei Kol Mechurin. But if you're going to tell me that the only time that they argue is when the cargo apparatus is separate from the donkey, but when the cargo apparatus is on the donkey, even the Chachamim agree, so then Hamani, then who does this brisa go according to? Because the brisa says that if you don't say it and everything that's on it, but you just say it, the donkey, so then the cargo's not included. So doesn't that prove that we're talking about a case where that in a case where the cargo is on it, the Chachamim hold that you're not automatically koine. That's our proof. So the Gemara says, La'olam ema lecha b'she'ein odan alav machlokes v'rabbanon hi. Ve'ema uvizman she'amar lohu v'chol ma she'ro'oi lihiyos alav. So really, says the Gemara, no. Maybe the correct way to read the Brisa is the Brisa could be talking about a case where the cargo apparatus is not currently resting on the donkey. And the contrasting cases are like this. In the first case, it's because the cargo apparatus is not on it, and the seller only said it and not anything else. And therefore, he's only coin of the saddle, but he's not coin of the cargo apparatus. And the contrasting case is where he says it and everything that is supposed to be on the donkey in a normal situation when it's traveling, including the cargo apparatus, but not that the cargo apparatus is currently resting on it. That's another way that you could read the Brisa, and therefore the language of the Brisa is not precise enough for us to be able to pin it down one way or the other, and therefore we have no raya from the Brisa. So we're still left with this question. Where do the Chachamim and Nachum argue? Is it only when the cargo apparatus is on the donkey, or is it only when the cargo apparatus is off the donkey? So Tashma, let's try and prove it from the next part of our Mishnah. What did it say? Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Pa'amim Mechurin, Pa'amim She'enon Mechurin. Rabbi Yehuda says, sometimes the apparatus is part of the sale, and sometimes it's not part of the sale. And so what was his mitigating point?
We don't know which apparatus.
Well, so we're going to learn like Ula, and we're going to say that everyone is consistent with Ula, that it's talking about the cargo apparatus. But the point is like this. The point is that it sounds like Rabbi Yehuda is maneuvering in between the Chachamim and Nachum. That according to the Chachamim, you're never koine of the apparatus, and according to Nachum, you are always koine of the apparatus. And Rabbi Yehuda says it depends. It depends if the donkey is in front of us with the cargo on it, cargo apparatus on it, so then you're koine. If the language did not imply that he's pointing to this specific donkey, so then the cargo apparatus is not included. So that sounds like we're talking about, in the whole Mishnah, a donkey with apparatus on it, not separate from it. So my lav amai dekamer tanakamakoi, Rabbi Yehuda. So doesn't that imply that Rabbi Yehuda is addressing the same case as the Tanakama, and therefore is basically saying, I'm the middle guy. The Chachamim say never, Nachum says always, and I say it depends. But Rabbi Yehuda's case is where the apparatus is on the donkey, so therefore by inference it must be that the Chachamim and Nachum are also arguing when the apparatus is on the donkey. So the Gemara says, lo, Rabbi Yehuda milsa achrisi ka'amar. It could be that that's not correct. It could be that Rabbi Yehuda is addressing a totally different case. In other words, in a situation where the apparatus is off the donkey, that's where Rabbi Yehuda and that's where the Chachamim and Nachum have this disagreement as whether the apparatus is included in the sale. And it could be that even the Chachamim agree to Nachum when the apparatus is on the donkey that it's included in the sale. And on that, Rabbi Yehuda comes to say, even when the apparatus is on the donkey, it'll depend. You see, so that's another way that you could read it, and therefore you have no raya from our Mishnah. Amar le Ravina le Ravashi Toshma. Let's look at the next brisa. Mocher es hakron lo mocher es haprados. That remember our previous Mishnah had said that if a person sells a wagon, the mules are not included in the sale. The Tani Rav Tachlifa bar Ma'arava kamei de Rebbe Avahu mocher es hakron mocher es haprados. And remember we had seen the brisa of Rav Tachlifa. He had said that the mules are included in the purchase. V'amar lei v'hanan lo machar tanan v'amar lei ismayeh. And remember the back and forth. Rav Tachlifa teaches this to Rebbe Avahu, and Rebbe Avahu says, what are you going to do with the Mishnah? Rav Tachlifa thought, hey, Rebbe, you're right. Maybe I should erase this from my catalog. This brisa must be an erroneous brisa. V'amar lei lo tetargem masnisecha ba'adukim bo. So Rabbi Avo said, no, your brisa must be talking about where the mules are hitched to the wagon. And our Mishnah is talking about where the mules are not hitched to the wagon, and that's why they're not included in the sale. Well, if the previous Mishnah was talking about where the animal and the apparatus are separate from each other, the wagon and the mules are separate from each other, wouldn't that imply that our Mishnah is also talking about where the donkey and the apparatus are separate from each other? So Michlal demasnisin b'she'ein adukin bo, u'midureisha b'she'ein odan alav, seifanami b'she'ein odan alav. So that's basically, I just spoke out what the Gemara said. So let's infer from the previous Mishnah that our Mishnah too is where the Chachamim and Runachim are arguing when the saddle is not, the cargo apparatus is not on the donkey. Okay? So the Gemara says, Adarabba, Emaresha. The Gemara says, wait a minute. I can bring you an opposing proof from the Mishnah prior to that. Because it says, Avolo machar lo esa avadim v'lo esa antiki. That if a person sells a boat, not included in the boat sale are the slaves and the antiki. The amrina and my antiki. Remember we had said, what is the definition of an antiki? Amar Rav Papa, iska de begava. We're talking about the cargo that's in the boat. Umidureisha ba'odan olav, seifanami ba'odan olav. Now, cargo that's off the boat, you'd never even think would be included in the sale. The point of the Mishnah there was to say that the cargo, even though it's on the boat, is not included in the sale. So the fact that that Mishnah's case of the boat is talking about where it's the apparatus in question is on the boat, so it sounds like the cargo apparatus of our Mishnah is where it's on the donkey. So elatana mili mili katani. So therefore the Gemara's conclusion is we're talking about such disparate cases, you can't really apply the standards of one to the other. One Mishnah will be talking about where the two items in question are attached to each other. One will be talking about where they're not, and you can't infer one from the other. So again, we still have no resolution as to whether the Chachamim and Nachum are arguing only when the cargo apparatus is separate from the animal, or whether it's saddled to the animal. Amar Abaye, Rabbi Eliezer, and by the way, we're not going to get resolution. We're going to go on to another discussion, which is Amar Abaye, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Nassim, V'Sumchus, V'Nacham Amodi, Kulu Sfiraluhu, Ki Mazbin Inish Midi Ihu V'Chol Tashmishte Mazbin. So what the Gemara is basically, what Abaye is basically telling us now is like this: we can look at all of these Tanoim and find one common denominator about them, and that is that they hold that the seller is more generous when he sells items and includes more items in the deal. Now that is not to say that they all agree with each other. We can't prove that all of the rabbis on this list would agree to each other on their respective cases, because they're all different scenarios. But what we can say is they're all consistently holding that when a seller sells, they sell other stuff along with the item in question. So Rabbi Eliezer, what's the case of Rabbi Eliezer? Ditnan, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Hamocher is Beis Habad, Mocher is HaKoira. So what the case of Rabbi Eliezer was, remember all the way back we saw a Mishnah that said that if a person sells an olive press, included in the olive press, the Chachamim said that the Korah, the major crushing beam, is not included in the sale. And Rabbi Eliezer said, no, that's the mainstay of the press, and that's included in the sale. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel did not. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel omer hamocher es ha'ir, mocher es ha'santar. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel had said that when you sell a city, you sell also the slave who's in charge of the census office, or the surveyor, I guess.
The real estate, the land titles office.
Right, the land titles office.
The outer fields, was it another opinion, was the outer fields?
Was that what the word sent? I thought no.
There was a difference of opinion. I think one was,
really?
Was this official,
whether it was a clerk or whether it was fields.
Okay, good. So I just remember the clerk. Anyway, the point is that he's more generous, including in the sale of the city, the centaur. And Rabbi Meir, D'Tanya, Rabbi Meir Omer, Mocher es hakerem, Mocher tashmishe hakerem. Rabbi Meir also said when you sell a vineyard, you're also selling the sticks that are used to prop up the vines, even though they're not currently holding up the vines. And Rabbi Nassim v'Sumchus, Bitzis v'Dugis. Now Rabbi Nassim and Sumchus held the same shita, that when you sell a boat, included in the sale is the Bitzis and the Dugis. And the Gemara had said that they're really the same thing, but just one's the Eretz Yisrael terminology, one's the Babylonian terminology, but they both mean the small dinghy that hangs on the side of the ship.
Dugout. Is that another name for it? A dugout? Tiki?
Is it maybe dugouts?
Is that another name for
I
it?
thought a dugout was for baseball
Yeah,
players.
I thought it was another.
Yeah, I don't know.
Aboriginals make boats out of a dugout tree.
Okay. Nachem Amadi, Hada Amran. And finally, Nachem Amadi, in our case, when you're selling a donkey, he throws in the cargo apparatus. And Rabbi Yehuda Omer Pamim Mechurin B'chulei. And Rabbi Yehuda says sometimes it's included and sometimes it's not, depending upon the language that is used in the sale. And remember, he had said that if you say Chamor Zu, it's included, but if you say Chamor Hu, it's not included. So the Gemara asks, Ma'ishna Chamor Chazu, U'Ma'ishna Chamor Chahu. What's the difference? You seem to be adding a word for some reason in both cases. So Amar Rava Chamor Chazu Yada de Chamor Didehu, V'Haitika Amar Lezu Mishum Kelov Ka'amar Le. He says, because when you say Chamor Chazu, your donkey, this is your donkey. So what you're implying is, I know it's your donkey, but I want it to be dafka like this, which means all the bells and whistles included, right? That's really what he's saying. But Chamor Chahu, but when he says Chamor Chahu, is this your donkey? That's at least one way to interpret it, like he's asking a question for clarification. Delo yada de chamor didehu v'achi kamer le chamor chahu shetin karenoli. And what he's really saying to him is that, is this your donkey for such that you can sell it to me? And therefore, because the word who is not adding a word that is unnecessary, but rather it's there to verify that it's your donkey, we can't interpret it to mean that he wants to add additional items to the sale.
It's like a fully loaded car versus a stripped down car.
That's right, with the air conditioning and the power windows, right? Let's go on to the next Mishnah. Hamocher es hachamor, mocher es hasiach, mocher es hapara, lo mocher es bina. So a strange contrast. When you sell a donkey, the what do you call a baby donkey?
It's called a foal, or is that only
A foal?
Yeah, I think it's a foal.
A foal is not included, okay? But when you sell a cow, the calf is included, okay? Machar ashba, machar zivala. When you sell a garbage hole or a dump or a garbage heap, right? So basically, I'm selling you the the kills in New Jersey. I'm selling you Staten Island or whatever. No one wanted to live on Staten Island at one time, because it was right next to a garbage dump. So I'm selling you a garbage dump. So included in the garbage dump is the accompanying dung that is used for composting. That's included. You can't say, no, I want to take the dung with me. Mochar bor, mochar meimeha. When you sell a well, you also included is the water that's in the well. You can't dry it out before you deliver. And mochar kaveres, mochar devar. When you sell a beehive, the bees are included. And mochar shoivach, mochar yonim. When you sell a dove coop, the doves that are in it at the time of the purchase are included in the sale. The Gemara now says, Heichi dami. Ida amar lehi ubina, afilu para ubina nami. Ida lo amar lehi ubina, afilu chamor nami lo. So the Gemara says, essentially, I don't understand the distinction between a donkey and its baby and a cow and its baby. If the stipulation was this mother animal and its child, so then in both cases, the baby should be included, the foal and the calf. If, maybe I thought foal is for a horse, I thought.
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe, so we have to.
It says foal.
What?
It says foal.
It says foal? And if if you didn't stipulate and its baby, then in both cases, the baby should not be included. So Amar Rav Papa da Amar Le, Chamor Meinika Upara Meinika Ani Mocher Lecha. So the answer, says Rav Papa, in both cases, the stipulation was, I am selling you a lactating animal. Now, a lactating animal, why do you care whether the animal's lactating or not? So it depends. If it's a donkey, there's only one reason why you need that information that it's lactating is because you're getting the foal with it. But a cow that's lactating, you want its milk.
Right.
So that's the reason why the calf is not automatically included in the sale. So bishlam apari ikalamemer lechelba boila. So that's why the Gemara speaks out. For a cow, the reason why I needed to know if it's lactating or not is because I want to know whether I'm going to get milk out of this cow. And elachamor my kamarle shmamina hi ubana kamarle. But why do you have to know that a donkey is lactating? You're not going to drink its milk. So obviously it's for the purpose of indicating to the buyer that he's getting the foal. Va'amai kori le'siach. Now a little bit of agadata. Why is a donkey called a siach, right? Which is an interesting name for a donkey baby. Shemahalich achar sicha noeh. Because a foal, when you make a pleasant sound, or pleasant, giddy up, come here, or whatever you say to a foal. I don't know what you say. Never lived on a farm. So it is attracted to a pleasant voice. That's the reason why, because the word siach from the word sicha, from conversation. So Amar Reb Shmuel Bar Nachman, Amar Reb Yechanan, or Amar Reb Yonasan, I guess, would be another girsa. So Mai Dirsiv Al Kain Yomeru Hamoshalim Bo'u Cheshbon. So this is a beautiful Gemara. It's often quoted because Rashi brings it down in the Chumash. It's at the end of Sefer Bamidbar. I think it's Parshas Chukas, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe Balak. I don't remember now. I think it's Chukas, and it says over there that like the Rashbam speaks out, the primary import of this whole thing, the people who cite parables say as follows: Bo cheshbon tiboneh v'sikonein ir Sichon. Let us, the city of Sichon is built up and established. Now, why did they say that? So the answer is like this: the Jewish people were told, you have no right to dispossess Moab of their property, because Moab is your relative and you have to be nice to them, right? So therefore you cannot take their property. But if someone else, like Sichon, conquers their property, so then it's no longer Moab's and you're allowed to take it. So that was really what the Chumash is trying to tell us, is that even the Moshalim, even the people who recite parables, wrote a poem about how Sichon conquered Moab, and therefore it was permissible for the Jewish people to dispossess Moab of their property, because it was now no longer Moab's, it was Sichon's. But the Rashbam says, but the whole parsha is extraneous because it was already stated once before. So therefore we learned using homily that this whole portion is telling me something else. That what is the word moshlim? Not those who recite parables from the word mashal, but rather hamoshlim elu hamoshlim beyitzra. This refers to those who rule over the Yitzhar from the word moshel, which is to rule. So bo cheshbon, let us go to cheshbon, which means bo v'nechashav cheshbono shel olam. Let us make a calculus about the calculus of the world, which means about things that hang in the balance of the universe. Hefsid mitzvah keneged schara, uschara vera keneged hefseda. Let us calculate the loss of a mitzvah against its reward, and the reward of an avera against its loss. Meaning that before you calculate whether you're going to do a mitzvah or not, because it's maybe difficult, it may involve monetary loss, think about the tremendous schar that you're going to get if you do it. And before you decide to do an avera, and because you're tempted because of the immediate gratification of that avera, think about how much you'll lose by doing the avera in the long run. That's what it says. Tiboneh v'sikoneh. Then the next part of the pasuk says, "It shall be built and it shall be established." Ir Sichon. So what do those two words imply? Imata osakein tiboneh ba'olam hazeh v'tikonein le'olam haba. If you do that, if you make that cheshbon, that calculus, so then you'll be built up in this world and you'll be established in the world to come, because you'll always think before you act. But so Ir Sichon. Im mesiach adam atzmo ki ir zeh, mesim adam rather atzmo ki ir zeh, shemahalich achasicha noeh, that the words ir sichon tells you, but if not, if you follow, if you make yourself like an ir sichon, which means like the city of prattle, the city of talking, which means that you're seduced by convincing words, maksiv acharav, what is the following pasuk? Ki eish yatsa'a mecheshbon. A fire will come from Cheshbon, right? Teitzei eish mimechashvin v'tochal she'enon mechashvin. A fire will emanate from those who made their calculus and consume those who did not make their calculus. As we'll see in the Gemara later on, that that tzaddikim have a canopy that's made out of fire in the next world, and their canopy ignites and burns those whose canopies are lower than theirs.
I think we saw that earlier.
Oh yes, okay. V'leheva mikiryas Sichon, and the next part of the pasuk says a flame, or a flame goes from the neighborhood of Sichon, Mikiryat tzadikim shenikru sichin, that it comes from the area of the tzadikim, this fire. And why are the tzadikim called sichon? Because the tzadikim are called sichin. And like Rashbam says, the word siach means a tree. And the tzaddik is like a tzaddik hatamar yifrach. So therefore, their fire will emanate and burn those who don't make a calculus. Achela or Moav, ba'alos bamos are known. The last part of the pasuk says that the Achela or Moav. So Zeh mahalech achar Yitzro ki ir zeh shemahalech achar sicha noeh. This refers to a person who follows his Yetzer Hara like an ear. How do they translate the word ear over here, Reb David? Like a city that follows pleasant voices. I guess a city dweller maybe, who follows pleasant voices and follows seductive voices. That person shall be consumed. That person shall be consumed by Moav. And Ba'alei Bamos Arnon, and those who are of the high places of Arnon, Elu Gase Haruach. This refers to arrogant people. The Omar Mar Kol Adam Sheyesh Bo Gasus Haruach Nofel Began. That anyone who has arrogance from the high places will fall into Gehenna. And then the next pasuk says, Vaniram Avad Cheshbon Adivon, and Niram, right, lost Cheshbon up until Divon. So Omar Rasha Ein Ram. So what do you? How do you read the words Vaniram? You read it as Omar Rasha Ein Ram. That the Rasha says that there is no exalted God up in heaven. Avad Cheshbon. Avad Cheshbono Shalolam. If he says such a thing, he loses out on the calculus of the world because he's not willing to acknowledge that there is judgment. And Ad Divon, the next words in the pasuk, until Divon, what does that refer to? Amor lo Rasha Hamtena Chiyavo Din. That we tell to the Rasha, oh, you'll wait, you'll see that there will be justice. Va Nashim Ad Noifach. The next part of the pasuk says, and Nashim until Nofach, that is until Meidva. So what do those words mean? Vanashim ad Nofach, ad shetavo eish, she'ena tzricha nifuach. The word Nashim comes from the word eish, and ad Nofach means the bellows. It means that there will be a fire that will strike you for not having thought about what to do in this world properly. A fire will be so intense in Gehenna that it will not even need to be fanned by the bellows. Ad Meideva, until Meideva, ad shetadiv nishmasan, until it shall cause a great dread in their souls. Va'amri la ad da'avid ma'idaboi. And some say that the word Meideva comes from the word deboi, that a Kadosh Baruch Hu will do with that person that which he wishes to do. Okay, so Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav Kol Haporesh Midivrei Torah Eish Ochlaso. Rav Yehuda, the name of Rav, says that anyone who separates from the words of Torah will be consumed by a fire. Shnei Amar V'nosatias Panai Bohem, that it says in the Torah in Sefer Yechezkel that God says, I will place my face against the sinners. Meha'esh Yatzau, they come from the fire, meaning they've left the Torah, because the Torah is compared to fire, so they've left the fire. V'ha'esh tochaleim, and the fire shall consume them. That's the proper retribution. If you run away from the fire of Torah, a different kind of fire will pursue you. Ki asa Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yonasan kol haporesh atzmi v'divrei Torah nofel b'gehenim. He says anyone who separates from words of Torah will fall into Gehenim. Shene'amar Adam to'eh miderech haskel b'kal rifaim yanuach. It says in Mishlei that if a person strays from the path of intellect, then in the congregation of Rifaim he shall rest. Ve'ein Rifaim el Gehenim. How do I know that Rifaim refers to Gehenim? Shene'amar v'lo, it's a pasuk, another pasuk in Mishlei, v'lo yada ki Rifaim sham bi'imkei sha'ol kiru'eha. That it says, the pasuk in Mishlei, they're totally different pasuk in Mishlei, associates the word Rifaim to Imkei Sha'ol, the valleys of the depths. And so you see that the valleys of the depths refers to Gehenna. It refers to a place of deep, deep recesses below the earth, which is how Gehenna is described. And therefore we see from that pasuk that that's what Rephaim refers to as well, is to a place of purgatory. And this is where we shall hold it for today. Mashiach Chag Kasher V'Samach.